Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Baba.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I hope.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, thank you. Thank you. My name is Baba. I think the first thing that I'm supposed to do, like I said, I'm Baba. I would like to apologize. We were supposed to have a class last week Wednesday, because of miscommunication and other commitments that I had that day. So I would like to apologize for that and for not communicating with you guys. What I'm going to do for that class, I will do a recording and send that recording on my user and my YouTube again, so you can be able to access that class that we missed. But if you have anything you want to ask after watching the video, you're welcome to contact me so we can discuss it. Thank you. The topic of today, let me share quickly with you. It is about demand and supply. Like I said, the topic of today is about demand and supply. The presenter is Baba. That's my surname. Okay. These are the outlines of our learning outcomes. At the end of this session, you must be able to define the demand and supply. You must be able to plot or to sketch the demand and supply functions, and you must be able to distinguish between the two types of the graph. The last one, you must be able to determine the equations of the demand and supply from the given information. Okay. What is demand? We have various ways of explaining what is a demand, the term itself, demand. Others, they say the demand presents the quantity of the product or service that consumer customers would buy at a certain price. And others, they normally say they refer to demand as a willingness and ability to buy different quantities of product or it can be service at the different given prices. So these are different definitions of demand supply, of rather demand. So if you look at the first definition where we're talking about this term demand, the key words there is about product or service, which is denoted by Q, and the other one price, which is denoted by P. So these two we want to know from the demand side, how do they relate? And if you look at the relationship between the two, maybe the two, I will say the two symbols, which is your price and your demand, you can see the relationship there, it's negative. The demand for product, it's negatively related to the price that is asked for the product. Simple, if you know that the product, the price is going up, you know that it's going to be somehow discourage the consumer to buy the product. That's where these relationships come in, because that is what I'm saying, it's a negative relationship. When the price increase, it means the demand goes down. So that's the relationship between these two, which is price and quantity or sales. Then we have a demand function that can be modeled by the linear equation. So if you look at this equation, it's also included two terms that we spoke about earlier on, which is quantity and price. So if you look at your equation here, your linear equation, it says Q is equals to A minus PB. So I will just explain the symbols that we have from Q up to the last one, which is P, where we say, okay, if you look at your A there, your A, you're saying this is we have A and B that we can say this is our constraint. Then we have a Q there, which is our dependent variable. So it means Q dependent on the values or the symbols that we find on the right-hand side, where we have P there, which is our price, and our P is independent. So before we start taking our example, what I'm going to do, we are going to sketch our graph, whereby now we are not involved in the numbers. We want to see how do we sketch our graph given this equation before we can take a practical example. Oh, sorry. I'm looking for a red document. Okay. Back to our equation. We are saying our equation in this case for demand linear function is made up of Q equals to A minus BQ. Do this so I can right click on it. Okay. This is our equation. And we are saying from this given equation, we want to come up with our graph. But for us to come up with a graph, it means we must have a value that will represent our Q in our Cartesian plane, and we must have a value that again will represent our P in our Cartesian plane. So from this equation, we can set, we set Q equals to 0. So when we set Q equals to 0, it means our interest in this case, we want to know what is the specific value of P. So in that case, we say looking at this equation, where we see Q, it means we'll subtract, we'll replace Q by 0. So in this case, we'll have 0 equals to A minus B BQ. So if you take okay, so our interest is to find P. So if we take P to the left-hand side, we ended up having BQ equals to A. But remember, we want P. So in this case, our P, we divide both sides by B. We want to get rid of B. So to get rid of B from the left-hand side, it means we'll have to divide it using it both sides. So in this case, our P ended up being A divided by P. So that is our P. So we're going to take the very same equation again. In this case now, we'll have to set P equals to 0 because our interest is to know what is the specific value of Q. So in this case, I'll just repeat the equation there, which is Q equals to A minus B times P. So interest here, we set P equals to 0 because our interest is to know what is the exact value of Q. So looking at this equation, we say Q, where we see now P, we'll substitute that P with 0 because we are saying they're equal. So we have A minus B, open brackets, times P. So in that case, sorry, okay. So we said P equals to 0, so we put 0 there. Then when we multiply, this falls off. When it falls off, we ended up having Q equals to A. So we know now that P is equals to A divided by B, where Q is equals to A. So if we have to sketch the graph for that, using these values that we have, I'm trying to go to the next page. Okay, what I will do, we know that we have Q equals to A, and we have P there equals to A over B. So I will try to erase this part so I can be able to sketch a graph. Okay, to sketch our graph using the given information. There we go. So here we'll have Q, on this side we have P. So we are saying Q is equals to A, then we'll put our A here. And we are saying P is equals to A over B. So there is our equation. And what is important that we have to remember? Remember our equation is Q equals to A minus B times P. If you look at this B represents our slope. So if you look at our line here, that tells you that we have a negative slope. In this case, our B is negative. So we have a negative slope. If there's any question you can ask me before, maybe I take an example, just to demonstrate what I've just done now. Any question?
No question for now.
Question? Any question? Can you hear me, guys? Hello?
Mr. Club, we can hear you.
Can you hear
I'm
me?
just wondering now if you can hear us.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Questions before I take an example? Any question? No question. Okay. So let's go back to our okay. Here is our example. Consider the demand function where Q is equals to 200 minus 2P. So it means you're going to follow exactly the same steps when I was trying to demonstrate to you how I calculated P and Q from the given equation from the given equation. So
Ah,
so the first thing is to rewrite the equation, where the equation, it says Q equals to 200 minus 2P. So this is the given equation. And we are saying from this given equation, we want to come up with a Cartesian plane, which is our graph. So the first thing before we do our graph, we have to find a specific value that represent Q and also that will represent our P, which is our price. So the first thing, it's up to you. You can start with Q or you can start with P. It's up to you. Let's set our P equals to 0. And if we set our Q, rather our P equals to 0, we'll have Q equals to 200 minus 2. So in this case now, instead of now writing P again, we are saying P is equals to 0. So it means from this given equation where we see P, will put 0. So here is 0. Then we have 200. When you multiply here, this part is going to fall off. Then it becomes 0. So that tells us that in this case, our Q, our quantity is 200. So we move on. Now we know the value of Q. Now we take the very same equation. Now, in this case, now we want to know what is the value of P, which is our price. So where we have Q again equals to 200 minus 2 times P. So in this case now, because of our interest is to find P, we'll have to set Q. We'll have to set Q. Let's set Q equals to 0. Set Q equals to 0. Then in this equation where we see Q, we put 0. 0 equals to 200 minus 2P. Therefore, we take, to simplify it, we take negative 2P to the left-hand side. When you take it to the left-hand side, the sign is going to change to be positive. Then we have 2 times P equals to 200. So what do we do in this case now? We divide, because now our interest is not to have 2 P's, to have P. So it means we're going to divide both sides by 2. So when you divide by 2, we have P equals to, then we have 100 there. So now we have P equals to 100. We have Q equals to 200. So we are going to take 200 and 100 to sketch the graph. So to sketch our graph, again, I like to use this. So our x-axis is represented by P there. Our y-axis, we have Q in that case. Then we look at the values that we calculated. Q at somewhere here, which is 200. And we have 100 down here, which is 100 that represent our price. Then we connect that by drawing a line. So here is our line. And now we'll have to rewrite our equation. if you remember our equation, it was Q equals to 200 minus 2P. So this is our slope. So it shows our slope, even if it's still in the first quadrant, but you can see our slope is moving to the left. So there, our slope, it will be negative 2. So that is our demand. This is how you calculate your demand, and this is how you plot it. Questions before I move? I see a hand. Lebogang.
Mr. Tava, how are you?
Hello, Lebogang.
Can you hear me? Hello?
You can proceed. I'm listening.
I just want to know what made you
Hello?
decide? What made you decide to put?
I can't hear you. Let me do this and see. Hello, Lebogang, I'm listening.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I do now.
I just want to ask what made you decide to put your Q on your y-axis and your P on your x-axis?
Come again? Repeat your question.
What made you decide to put your Q on your y-axis and your P on your x-axis?
Okay, if you remember a basic linear algebra that says y is a dependent variable. So in this case, because our Q is a dependent variable, so it means dependent variable, they become our vertical, and independent variable becomes our horizontal. So from the basic mathematics linear equation, it says that, okay, all the dependent variable, they go vertical, and the dependent going vertical. So in this case, it's still the same thing.
All right. Thank you.
Questions, guys, before we move? Mulapo can come through.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Can we just go back to the question? I'm not sure if it was asking for what the demand was, or was it something different?
Let's go back. Here's the question. So the idea from this, remember, we are given a demand function. So from this demand function, we want to come up with our demand graph given the demand function.
Oh, okay. Will this be the format of the exam as well?
The question might differ, but
Yeah.
the idea is still the same. The idea is still the same. You might be given a different scenario, but whereby in that case, you are supposed to find this equation. You have to give us the linear equation. From the linear equation, yes, maybe you will be asked, maybe take it further to come up with the demand function graph.
Oh, okay, because here I'm just looking for the exact question to say plot a graph, or because I feel like here it's just a statement giving me all of the information that I would need. So that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
It will be the same type of format.
No, it won't be the same. Maybe it might be the same, but we'll take it further. After this one, maybe we'll take another example whereby now you are supposed to find the function itself. And after finding the function, now you can be able to come up with your graph.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Questions? I see a hand.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. So I wanted to,
Yes, I do.
ask, I'm just following up on what I think it's Lindeni, the lady that just asked the question. Is it possible for you to just give us a different scenario as an example, please?
I think we'll take a different scenario when you go to the next,
Okay.
not the next topic, still the same session. Remember, we're talking about demand. Now, I think we'll have a different scenario when you go to supply.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Before we leave this demand, what are the factors they normally affect demand? Can you give me the factors that you think they affect the demand?
I think it's the price.
The price, okay. I agree. The price of the product, yes. What else? To me, I'll just say to me, sorry.
Okay, thank you. The consumer income can also affect the demand.
Correct. Thank you for that. Who else? There are many guys.
The cost of production, I'm not sure if somebody did mention it.
No, no one mentioned it. Okay, thank you. What else? I see a hand. I don't know. Moses.
Sanel, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was still on that. Things that can affect the price. It's the price of substitute goods can also affect the price.
Okay, thank you. What else?
Also, the buying power, the consumer buying
power. Okay, thank you. Guys, these are some of the questions that you're supposed to expect when you write maybe your quiz, your test. You have to know others. Maybe we might want more, so you must be able to tell what are the factors that can affect our demand. Your hand is still up, Moses.
The other one is
Sorry.
the level of
The other one. Okay, so
the other one is level of advertising.
Level of advertising, correct. Thank you for that. Thank you for your answers, guys. Any questions pertaining demand? Anything that you want to ask me about demand before we move? No question. Okay. If there's no question, let's move. The term supply. Supply represents the quantity of the product or service that is made available to the market, depending on the price of the product or the service. So if you remember, we said the relationship between demand and the product, going back to demand, we said the relationship between the quantity of the product or the service and the consumer or the price, yes, of the product is negative. But now when we come to supply, the relationship between the quantity of the product or the service and the price of the product, it's positive. So they move together. So it means if the product, the price of the product, if the demand is going high, quickly the seller will want to increase the price so he can be able to make more profit. So it means if the product goes down, the quantity goes down, automatically the price will also go down. So they move together. So that's the difference between the two. The other one, there's a negative relationship between the product, the quantity of the product, and the price of the product, which is the demand. But when it comes to supply, the relationship between the product, the quantity of the product, and the price of the product or the service, it's positive. Okay. So we also have the linear equation like we did under demand. So the difference between this linear equation of the demand and the supply, if you remember, when you look at the slope of the demand linear equation, it is a negative slope. But in the case of supply, we have a positive slope. So I'll also take the calculations looking at the given equation. If you look at the given equation, we still have the similar symbols as the one that we find under demand. We still have our Q that represent our quantity of products. We still have price. We still have P that represent the price of the product. We have C and D there. I don't know, how did I have this? C and D, they're also our constraints. It means from this slide supposed to be C and D, not A and B. So they represent our constraint from the given equation. So before we take an example, I will try to derive or to do a Cartesian plane like I did in the previous example. So if you look at our equation, linear equation of our supply, okay. We say we have Q equals to C plus D dP. This is our equation of our linear supply, our linear supply function. So from this, we're going to apply this very same method that we used when we're trying to sketch a graph of linear demand function. Firstly, now we'll have to find two values that will represent our Q, which is our quantity, and our price. So in this case, we say, okay, we are going to set P there equals to 0. And when we set P equals to 0, we ended up having Q equals to C plus D times 0. So in this case, our Q is equals to C. So we do the same now to find the value that will represent our P. So we say Q equals to C plus DQ P, and we set Q there equals to 0. Then we ended up having 0 equals to C plus DP. So now we can take this to the right hand side. Then we can say we have negative dP equals to C. Remember, our interest is P. So we say P is equals to, we divide both sides by negative D, and we have negative D there. Then we ended up having negative C over D. This is our P. So P is equals to negative C divided by D. So what we are going to do from here, we have to draw our graph. Then we have Q, we have P. We said our Q is equals to C. Then let's put C here. And our P in this case is equals to negative C over over T. Then we scratch. No. I made a mistake. I think I made a mistake. Let me go back and check this side. G. We have P equals to negative C divided by D. Okay. That is our P. Our Q here. Let me check. I need to verify the equation. What's the moment? Okay. From our Cartesian plane, we have our Q. Let me just check, did I capture the equation correctly? Because it doesn't make sense. Supposed to have a positive slope. I don't see a positive slope from here. Just a moment. Is it? Okay. Yeah, it's well captured. Let's go back to. Okay. Okay. Okay, we calculated our Q. Here is our Q. And here is our P. And if we look at the equation, just write it down here. Our equation is Q equals to C plus D P. And there it shows that we have a positive slope. Okay. Then we'll have Q there, which is C here. Remember, our interest is in our first quadrant. So this is where the line will start. So these are the broken lines. So we have a positive slope. Slope is equals to dp, or we can just say d here. So this is our slope. So we'll take an example just to show how is this, how do we get this positive slope. Okay, here is our example. In our example, we are given Q equals to negative 200 plus 20p. So the first thing that we have to do is to find the value of Q and the value of P, so we can be able to do our linear supply function. So we say, in this case, we set P equals to 0. Then we have Q there, or let me just use a small q. We have Q equals to negative 200 plus 20 times 0. Then we ended up having 200. So we take the same equation, Q equals to negative 200 plus 20p. Then now we set Q equals to 0. When you set Q equals to 0, we have 0 equals to negative 200 plus 200p. Maybe we can take that to the left, to the right, left-hand side. Then we ended up having 200 equals to 20p. Then we divide both sides by 20 just to get rid of 20. Then we ended up having p equals to 10. Then now we have p equals to 10 and we have q equals to 200. So we have to sketch the graph. Then when you sketch the graph, if you remember, we have 10 that represents price, which is P here. And we have P, rather we have Q. Then we say, let's put 10 somewhere here. We can go a bit down. Then we'll have negative 200. So this is how the graph is going to look like. So our slope here, if you remember our equation, this is our equation. Q equals to negative 200 plus 20 times P. So our equation is Q equals to negative 200 plus 20 P. So our slope is positive. So that is why it's moving to upward right direction. So this is how our graph for linear supply function. This is how it looks like. Questions about how to sketch it? Hello?
We can hear you.
Any question on how to sketch the supply before we take a second example?
I think we
Questions,
can
guys?
I think we can move ahead.
No question, sir.
Okay. Okay, let's take the second example. This is the second example under supply. So
In actual,
in this,
that example was an example for demand, an
one?
example for the one we just did, but we just switched up the equation so that it's suitable for supply because it's not under the study guide.
Which one is not under the study guide? That one. Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was not
The
there
previous
for
one,
supply.
it was not under
there
the study
for
guide.
demand. We just switched up the equation to be suitable for supply.
Pardon? Come again?
The equation, it was for
Yes.
it was the demand equation. That example, 200 minus, it was actually minus 2p. But because you wanted to use the same value so that we could graph, we could do a graph for supply. So instead of minus 2p, it was then plus dp, which is plus 2p.
Remember we said, if you remember, the slope of let me go up. Okay. I think there must be something wrong in this equation. I need to verify this equation. But the slope is very important. The slope of supply is always positive. The slope of demand is negative. Can you hear
I'm
me?
with Mr. Klaba. I'm with you, Mr. Klaba.
Yes, yes,
I'm 100% with you.
yes. And I'm saying it's possible that you can be given an equation like this under supply,
Yes, I agree with you
Yes.
100%.
and also can be given under demand. Are we together?
Yeah, we're together.
So now let's move. Let's look at a different problem, still under supply. John supplies hand-printed t-shirt to a craft market. He will only supply t-shirt when the price per t-shirt is more than 50 rand, and will increase his output by 20 units for every 10 rand increase in price. So in this case, we have to come up with this equation. So our objective is to have the Q and the intercept and our slope and the P. So our interest now is to come up with the linear supply function. So where are we? So how do we go about this one? What is the first step? Guys, what is the first step? If you are given a problem like this?
So I would say it is to write down the general linear supply function that is given and then work from there, where you identify the Q, that is the number supplied, and the P, which is the price. And that is given in the example.
Okay. So the first thing that you have to find, guys, is the line point of, the first thing we have to find the line point. And the line point in this case, if you look at the second, starting from here, he will only supply 10 t-shirts when the price per t-shirt is more than 50. So in this case, we're only given the value of P. So we don't have the value of Q. So we know for that point, which is our line is going to pass, it's passing, the coordinates for that point is going to be 50. That 50 represent the price, and 0 represent the quantity. So if you remember, let me go back. Okay, I'll use this part. Okay. Our aim is to come up with the linear function. If you remember, we said the equation of the linear supply function is equals to C, and we said plus B BP. So this is the equation. And we said that Q is equals to C. And in this case, our C is our intercept. If you look at from this equation, we are saying this is our intercept and this is our slope. So, and we said P is equals to negative C divided by, sorry, this is supposed to be D divided by D. If you still remember, when we are sketching our graph, we said we have Q equals to C and we have P equals to negative C divided by D. So we are saying from the given information now, we are saying our line passes through, whereby before I'm saying our line passes, we had Q equals to 0. If we produce the shed where we are going to sell them by 50 and we have our price equals to 50. And we say the coordinates for that point is 50 is to 0. That's where our line passing through. So from this information, we are saying, okay, fine. We want to find our slope. So to find our slope, if we remember, the slope is D equals to change in Q divided by change in P. So if you look at that sentence, let me go back to it. It says, and the increase, it means the change, the increase of 20 units of input. This input, we can say this is our product, our quantity of product. Will increase his output of 20 units for every 10 Rand increase in price. So these are the values that you're going to use for us to find our slope. Oh, what is happening? So we say, okay, change in Q in this case is going to be 20. And we are saying change in P in this case is, it's 10. And when we divide that, we ended up having 2 that represent our slope. So now we have our slope, but we are not yet done, because what we're trying to do is to fill up this formula. So we have Q equals to C plus D and P. So if you look at this part, we say P equals to negative C divided by D. We are given our price, which is 50 in that case. where we can say now, okay, let me put it down a bit there. Equals to, we have 50, we have C negative, divide by D. So now we'll have to multiply, cross multiply here. And when we cross multiply, we ended up having, I'll just write this here, B equals to, change over Q, divide by, change over Q, which equals to 2, that equals to 2. Okay, so when we cross multiply here, we ended up having C equals to negative D50. So this is our equation. So in this case, already we calculated the value of D, which is our slope. So we can say C is equals to minus 50, open brackets, times 2. This 2 is from here. That represents our slope. So we multiply, then we ended up having negative 100. So now C is 100 and D is, that's 2. So in that case, we say if now we have to come up with our equation is Q equals to C plus D dP. So this is our D, and this is our C. So we say Q equals to negative 100 plus 2 Q. So we can take this and try to sketch our graph. So if we sketch our graph, it means we'll be having Q equals to negative 100 plus 2P. Then we have our Q this side, we have our P this side. So what do? We can set here, we set P equals to 0. And when we set P equals to 0, meaning we are going to have Q equals to negative 100 plus 2, open bracket 0. This will fall off. Then we end up having Q equals to negative 100. Okay, so we can just put our negative 100 here. Then I'll erase again. So this time around, we set Q equals to 0. When we do that, we end up having 0 equals to negative 100 plus 2. Then we can take that on the right, on the left-hand side. Then our equation is going to be, then we divide there. We divide by 2 because our interest is to have value of P. This is 2, divided by 2, then we have P equals to, then we have 50. So our P in this case, it will be 50. Maybe we can put our 50 here. Then this is how our graph looks like. Maybe just allow this information. So this is how a graph it looks like. We can say this is equation Q equals to -100 plus 2P. Questions? Any question? Questions, guys?
No questions, sir.
No question. That was our last example. What I will do tomorrow, I will send other activities, but I think there are other activities in your study guide that you can go through. And if we have any challenges or difficulties, you can contact me. I see a hand, Buhle.
Thank you, Mr. Kaba. Just a quick one. The examples that you are going to send, are you going to send them on this chat, or is it going to be in a different format or platform?
It's going to be in a different platform. I will send them. I think tomorrow our module will be working. But if it's not working, maybe I can just share it under this group, so you can access it immediately.
Thank you.
No questions? If there's no question, we can close our session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Kaba?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a question on my side. Is this a continuation of the first semester? The reason I'm asking is that for a first-time student, yeah, it's a bit tricky for a first-time student. So I'm just wondering if this is a continuation of the first semester, or is this now starting from scratch, the module?
We are starting from scratch. We are starting from scratch, madam.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Trevor, I also have a question before you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to find out, why is it that these classes come after we have already written the assignment? Because what you are doing now was already covered in assignment 1. So why is it that the class doesn't come before the assignment so that we can prepare for the assignment?
Okay. I spoke to the primary lecturer and she told me that, okay, we are conducting these classes, so at least we can have videos to prepare for an exam.
Yeah, but we need to qualify for the exam before we can prepare for the exam.
Yes. I think I will talk to her so we can have more classes. Maybe that covers the second assignment before you submit the second assignment. So you can maybe, someone thinks maybe you didn't understand while you're busy with your assignment, but maybe practicing and asking us questions that will help you maybe to get better marks in your second assignment.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Kaba.
Hello.
I'd like to ask if how you get the link for these conversations, because on my end I did not receive anything. I got the link now via someone else who's doing the same module.
What I will do, we're going to share this. I'm going to share. I think if you'll be able to access again this link, you're going to find this recording here, but I'm going to take it again, put it on YouTube so you can be able to access it.
But for next time, how do I get communication like other people?
Next time, let me talk to the primary lecturer. Then you can send me an email after this. So that will be a reminder. So I will know how do I add you. So now you don't have to get the link from your friend or your classmate.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Anything? Any input?
Yes, another question. How often are we going to have these classes?
We are meeting again on Wednesday.
Okay.
6 o'clock. Yes. Tumisang?
Evening. Just a quick question. Has a primary lecturer noted anything with regards to the second assignment, like the extension date or anything? Because, like, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. These differentiating product rule, chain rule, it's much difficult. If we could cover it maybe for Wednesday, if the assignment is due later this week or something, that I would highly appreciate that.
Okay, if I may ask, when are you submitting your second assignment?
It was due today, but due to my models being down, she said that she will then communicate a new date. So we would appreciate covering that topic for the second assignment.
Okay, if that assignment, the next topic I think is, let me check quickly for you. What is the next? Don't see that plan here, but I will check. Hopefully, the next topic will cover the assignment, because now there will be an extension. So that will be on your advantage if we can be able to cover that on Wednesday. So now we have time maybe to correct some of the mistakes if there are mistakes in your assignment.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think the second assignment was extended to the 7th of August.
7th of August.
Yes, we were supposed to have submitted it today, but because the system was down, they extended it to the 7th of August.
Yes, if it's 7th of August, yes, but we are still continuing with class. Hopefully the next class will be covering maybe what was asked in your assignment. Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything? No questions? Okay, thank you. Have a lovely evening. Okay, there's a hand. Thomas? Thomas, you can come through.
That was an accident, sorry.
Oh, okay. I think there's a question and yes, I think assignment 3 will be also postponed because there's no way you can submit assignment 2. But I will verify. Let me not say it's going to be postponed or not. I will verify, then I'll give you a feedback of assignment 3 on Wednesday. When we meet on Wednesday, I'll give you the feedback about assignment 3. Can we close our meeting now, or there's still 1 or 2 questions left behind? Okay, thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.